Hi, to anyone that's watching, my name is Nicholas, and today I will present on a topic regarding millennials at work. To be more specific, what will make an employee stay longer at a company? I have been given the data from a survey that was done, and I was asked by a CEO on what will make her employees stay longer in her company. From what I have found, my hypothesis is that organizational commitment has an effect on how long an employee will stay in a company. So, how did I come up with this? It is by finding out which of the variables from the data collected through the survey has the strongest prediction for turnover intention. Turnover intention is the idea of leaving the company. The variables in this research were mattering, organizational commitment, intentional entrepreneurship commitment, and turnover intention. From this, I will want to find out which has the strongest prediction for turnover intention. So the DV will be turnover intention, and the IV will be the three other variables. So here are the steps I have taken for the research. Firstly, I will compute all the variables into one group so that it can be calculated easier. Then, I will run an assumption test to see if the variables are normally distributed. After that, I will run a multiple linear regression test to find out which of the three variables is the strongest predictor for turnover intention. Then I would have to check if the data has any outliers and if they are strongly correlated. And lastly, from the results, I can prove my hypothesis. So after doing the first step of computing my data, I would run an assumption test. As you can see from this figure from the slide, that the data is normally distributed. This means that the data is evenly spread out, as you can see from the bell curve. After that, I will run a multiple linear regression test to find out which of the variables has shown the highest score. From this chart, we can see that organizational commitment, or as listed as OCOM TOT, has the strongest score with a score of 0.401 and a p-value which is less than 0.001. This means that the score is significant. But before I can prove that, I will have to check if there are outliers in the data. Firstly, I will have to check if the outliers by distance. From here, we can see that there are only 3 liars in the case of 353 participants. The number of outliers is so small that it would not have an effect on the result, so I left it as it is. Then I would check the outliers by influence. This is through checking the Cook's distance. As you can see from the highlighted portion of the data has a score which is less than 1. This means that the data would not be influenced by the outlier. After I'm done checking the outliers, I would then run a multicollinearity test and a singularity test. This chart will show that it has a VIF score which is between 1 and 5, which means that the variables are moderately correlated between a given predictor variable and the other predictor variable in the model. But this is often not severe enough to require attention, so we are good to go here too. After checking all of that off, we can safely assume that the data here is accurate and will not have to worry about the outlier. So, from here, we can clearly see that the result again. So, what does this mean? This means that organizational commitment is the strongest predictor for turnover intention. This shows the importance of organizational commitment in a company, as it is the main predictor of how long an employee would stay in a company. So, what would I suggest the CEO to do? I would suggest her to find ways to improve organizational commitment in a company, like creating strong teamwork culture, providing constructive feedback instead of criticizing, and having clear communication with employees. These things and much more would help her improve their commitment to the company. This would in turn make them stay longer in the company, and that is it for my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.